So you would love to move and buy a new house that better suits your needs, but you also need to sell your current house in order to make that work. So where the heck do you go from here? This is the number one thing we're currently hearing as agents right now because everyone is talking about low inventory. There simply aren't enough houses for people to buy. So while there are plenty of people who would sure ideally love to sell, they're a little bit nervous about it because while they know that they could easily sell their home, maybe even get multiple offers and cash out their equity in this very competitive seller's market, they also don't want to be left homeless. So they think, well, I would love to sell, but where would I go? And that's exactly what we're talking about in this video. Today, I'm outlining 12 strategies that you can consider to buy your next home before you sell your current home. Did you know there were that many possibilities? It's all about being creative and figuring out the strategy that works best for you. I'll be sharing the pros and cons of each strategy so that you can really consider what's going to best suit your unique situation and therefore feel confident and savvy moving forward. Let's go. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a realtor here in Charleston, South Carolina, and I love helping people buy and sell real estate every single day. So a lot of times on this channel, I make content for people who are new to the area and moving to Charleston. But in this case, I really want to talk to those of you who are sellers and you already own a home here, and maybe you are selling to move elsewhere, but a lot of people are also wanting to stay in the Charleston area and buy a new home. Maybe you've had a kid or two and you want to get a bigger house. Maybe you're an empty nester and you want to downsize. Whatever the reason is that you want to sell, you maybe are feeling a little bit stuck right now because you've got this really low interest rate and you just don't feel like it maybe makes sense for you to sell because, as I mentioned in the introduction, you're afraid that you're going to end up homeless because there aren't that many houses available. We have low inventory. So what are you supposed to do? Well, if you're paying cash, this is pretty straightforward because you can just simply buy the new house you want with cash and then sell your other house when you're ready. This is about 25% of people who have cash available to buy a home. So the majority of people don't have this option, which is why I made this video. So if you would really love to sell, then we're going to figure out this puzzle together and we're going to talk about 12 strategies. I'm sure that at least one of them could work for you. So let's get into it. Strategy number 1 is to buy new construction. Would you believe that almost 50% of the homes currently under contract in the Tri-County area are for new construction, and some areas actually even have over 50% of the homes that are new construction. This is an enormous figure. We have a lot of new construction, the highest amount being out in the Summerville area, next in Cane Bay, Summers Corner, pretty much everywhere out in Summerville and Ridgeville, and out to that western part of the Tri-County area. There's also new construction in some other outlying areas like Allendale, Hugie, Ravenel, as well as some closer to the peninsula places like Johns Island and Wando and Canehoy near Mount Pleasant and Daniel Island. So there is no shortage of new homes to pick from if this is something that you're interested in. Of course, a lot of people love new homes. I mean, you're the first person that gets to live there. Everything is shiny and new, and the whole idea being that you won't have to make any big purchases like a roof or an HVAC or a water heater or do anything to the home for many years to come. It's turnkey and it's just going to be something that you could see yourself in for many years to come. Some builders locally even allow you to customize it. It's a build your own home where you can pick the finishes, so you have some input in the design and the floor plan. And that's just really great because then you can customize and get exactly what you want and where you want. Usually to secure the home, you only need an earnest money deposit. This varies as far as how much. I've seen it as low as $500 A lot of times it's about 3%, maybe 5% that you put down, and then you're under contract. You wait for the home to be built. It'll be, depending on how far along the home is, some homes won't have started at all or even have permits. Some homes will already be, maybe they have the framing done. So usually it's going to be about 6 months to maybe a year timeline. This is great because it gives you that end point. You know roughly when the house is going to be done, and as it gets closer to that timeline, you can put your current house on the market maybe a few months before your home is going to be built, and you can line up the timing. And then when your house is ready, you simply close on your current home and then use the funds to buy the new home. So you get this beautiful new home, you don't have to move twice, and you don't have to worry about waiting for a resale home to come to market. You never know when another house that you're going to love is going to get listed, and when that house does come to market, if you were to go that route, a lot of times you would have to potentially worry about competitive offers. If it is a very desirable location and a turnkey home, you might be competing in a multiple offer situation, and there's no guarantee that you would necessarily be getting that home anyway. So it can be a little bit stressful, which is why going the new construction is these days the route that people are taking, because it's just so simple. The con of this strategy is that not everybody loves a new home. Some people like the older homes with character, and maybe you just aren't interested in new construction. Or maybe the part of town you live in doesn't have a ton of new construction. Like if you're wanting to be downtown or on James Island or certain places where there's just way less new construction, but you are really tied down to that area. Maybe you don't want to move out of the school district, or you are close to work. There's a lot of reasons why maybe you don't want to move to one of these areas where most of the new communities are. Also, maybe the prices are just too high. Like if you are on Daniel Island and you want to stay on Daniel Island, you might not be able to spend $1.5 or $2 million on a brand new house, even with all of your equity. So therefore, new construction might just not be on the table for you. I want to be sure that I mention that a lot of times your money goes further in new construction than it does in resale. Why is this? Because the builders do a lot of incentives. They can buy down your interest rate. They can do incentives at closing where maybe they pay for $5,000 or even $7,500 or $10,000 worth of closing costs, which is a huge savings for you. So when you look at the actual numbers, it's possible that you could get a brand new home that has a higher price tag, but your monthly payment would actually be less than resale home that comes to market is priced slightly lower, but because of the interest rate that you're going to get going more of the conventional non-new construction route, it's actually going to cost you more, which I know sounds crazy, but when you run the numbers, this is exactly what happens. Most people save hundreds of dollars a month going with new construction because of these incentives that the builders and a lot of times their in-house mortgage lenders are offering. So don't rule it out if you think it's a little bit above your preferred price point. You really just need to look at the numbers and see what that monthly payment is going to be, and maybe you can afford it after all. If you are interested in new construction, I definitely recommend after this video checking out my everything you need to know about new construction video. I go into the nitty-gritty details there of what you can expect in this process, and that will help you figure out if this is something you'd like to venture into. I also have a couple tours of some new construction neighborhoods, like one in Mount Pleasant and another Crescent Homes tour in North Charleston, and I have more coming soon. So also check out those videos if you are interested in new construction. The second strategy is to use a bridge loan. Now, I am not a mortgage lender, okay? I want to stay in my lane, so please just note that this is something that you would need to talk to a mortgage lender about so that you can really get into the details here. But it is important for me to mention because this is probably the most commonly used scenario for how people typically buy a house before they sell. Think of it as gap financing, where you have equity in your home that you can tap into to put towards the new home, and it helps bridge that gap between where you are now and where you need to be when you buy the new home. So this is a short-term loan that is helping you get enough cash so that you can make the new purchase until your home sells. A bridge loan is a high interest, short-term loan that lets you borrow a portion of your equity, which you can use as a down payment and for closing costs on your new home. It allows you to buy the new home, and once your old house sells later, the loan turns into whatever your normal mortgage would be, for example, a conventional 30-year. Depending on the lender's terms, you may only make interest payments during this time, you may make no payments at all, or you may make fixed monthly payments. The pros of this situation is that you can use your current home equity while your home is listed for sale to buy the new home. You don't have to clean out your savings account, and you can potentially even make a larger down payment on the new home that you are buying using your current home's equity. So it's convenient. You're able to buy the new home, move in, just move once, and then sell your current home after. You can get your home cleaned and staged and not have to deal with showings because you're not going to be living there, you're going to be living in the new home. You also can avoid home contingency offers, which are some of the strategies we're going to talk about next. What are the cons of this strategy? Well, depending on the terms, you may temporarily have to make 2 mortgage payments at once, but again, this is really dependent on the terms. As I said before, some of them are just interest payments, some of them are no payments at all, so this is definitely something that you need to talk to a loan officer about. You also may be paying temporarily higher interest rates. You might get charged higher closing costs, and some lenders do charge a fee for this, maybe 1%, which in the grand scheme of things may not be that much to you. It could definitely be worth the convenience to pay this fee for what it offers you. As I said, this is a short-term loan, so you also only have a certain window of time. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 12 months to sell your current home. If your home doesn't sell in that timeline, then you could risk foreclosure, because if your payments reset to having both at the same time, the payment for both houses, and you can't afford it, then you would risk going into foreclosure. So you definitely want to ensure that you feel confident that you could sell your current house in the time frame allotted to you. You also might have trouble qualifying for a bridge loan. Not everyone is eligible for it, and not all lenders are willing to do them. You also typically need at least 20% worth of equity in your home for this to make sense. Of course, again, the lender can explain all of this to you in detail. If you need some lender recommendations, please reach out to me. I have a few that I work with here in Charleston who are absolutely incredible at their jobs. They will make sure you understand every single line and what the terms are. I'd love to make that connection for you. They may even have some other loans they could offer you, like a piggyback loan. Different banks and different lenders have different products, so just tell them what you're trying to achieve and they can help you create the path to get there. The third strategy is a home sale contingency. This is the most traditional method used to buy before you sell. This means you put an offer on a home, and that offer is contingent on you selling your home. In other words, the sale of your current home is a condition of the contract that needs to be met within a certain time frame before you can purchase the home. If not, you can legally back out of the contract and keep your earnest money. The cons of this strategy is that this is not a competitive offer. So in the market we have now, which is especially in very sought-after neighborhoods or desirable locations, it's competitive, meaning that it could be multiple offers. And if a seller has multiple offers in front of them and one has a home sale contingency and one of them doesn't, there's a very slim chance that they are going to pick the one that does have the home sale contingency, because this is just a bigger risk to them and they might not want to wait for it. Maybe your house isn't even listed yet, so the seller would have to wait for you to get your house ready and then list it and then hope that it's going to sell quickly and then that your house is going to close so that you can then buy their house. So there's a lot of variables, and some sellers just won't want to have to deal with this timeline or with this risk. They prefer something with less contingencies overall in the offer. I mean, after all, they know nothing about your house or the condition or how quickly it's going to sell, and they can't control any of these variables, so it can feel like a risk for them sometimes. If your house is already on the market, that's definitely better, but it's still a lot of unknowns for the seller. In a slower market or in a slower part of town, or maybe there are more homes for sale, then a home sale contingency offer is much more likely to be considered. Now, those are some of the cons, but what are the pros? If it works, it gives you a lot of peace of mind and security to know that you're not going to have to buy this new home unless you're able to sell yours first. So if finances are tight it's a very safe route. If you want new construction, some builders, but not all, are even willing to accept home sale contingencies as part of the contract, so that's definitely something to ask if you're interested in new construction. Another part of this contingency is what's called a kick-out clause, where a seller can accept a backup offer and then kick you out of the contract. This is often used if a home sale contingency offer is accepted, which gives the seller a right to continue marketing their home and potentially accepting another offer. The seller is required to give you as the first offer notice, and you have a certain amount of time to remove your contingency from the offer. Now, this may or may not be possible depending on your financial situation, but you do get a window of time to figure out if it's possible. If not, the seller can accept the backup, and then you can either terminate your contract or move into the second backup position. While this isn't great for you, it is good for the seller to have options, and at least you had a chance at the home versus not having a chance at all. Maybe they never even accept a backup offer and it all works out. These are just all of the things that you need to think through when you are considering buying before you sell, so that you can not be left heartbroken and you can get the house that you want. The fourth strategy is a home to close contingency. This is very similar to what we just talked about, except this means that your home is already currently under contract and your home just needs to close in order for you to be free to buy this new house that you're putting the offer in on. It's more competitive of an offer than the home sale contingency that we just talked about, and it's less risky to the seller who is considering your offer because you're already under contract and on your way to the closing table. So this is a pro to the seller. It's a faster timeline. Maybe your home is scheduled to close in 2 weeks, so the seller feels okay to accept your offer because that's only 2 weeks away. You maybe even will have 2 weeks of due diligence anyway, so they feel pretty safe accepting your offer. The con is that your house still may not close in time. If the contract is contingent on financing isn't funded until the day of closing. So worst case scenario, the people buying your house fall out of escrow, you have to put your house back on the market, and that's just not a situation that you want to be in. So while a home to close contingency is better than a home sale contingency, it still has risk, it still has variables, and the seller is just going to have to weigh whether or not they feel comfortable accepting your offer. My advice is that if you are going to submit a home to close or a home sale contingency, try to think through what other ways you can make your offer more attractive. Maybe the current seller wants a lease back for 60 days. Not everyone is willing to give the seller this, but if you are, that's a way that you can make your offer stand out and give the seller what they want. Therefore, they'd be more likely to want to work with you. Maybe you have an appraisal gap addendum. There are a variety of ways on how to make your offer more attractive. So definitely talk to your realtor and come up with a great strategy that makes you feel safe while also making your offer more competitive. Strategy number 5 is to sell with a home to find contingency. Now, this is not a common strategy, but I wanted to mention it in case it's something that could potentially work for you. It's really the reverse of what we just talked about. How it works is that you get your home on the market now, but make the offer acceptance contingent on you, the seller, finding suitable housing. Maybe you give yourself 90 days or 120 days to find the right home. If you don't find it, then the offer would terminate. The con of this strategy, of course, is that some buyers won't want to take this risk or they won't want to wait for the home. However, with the market being so competitive, I think there's a pretty decent chance that you would find somebody who would be willing to put an offer on the house, even with this contingency. This strategy would work best for a home that is in a super sought after part of town, or a home that is very updated and turnkey versus one that maybe is in a less sought after part of town, or one that needs a lot of work, because most buyers wouldn't be willing to put up with this type of contingency unless the home is something that they just have to have. The pros are that you have the certainty of having a contract on your home. You don't have to move twice, assuming that this works out, and hopefully you have enough time to find your new place. Strategy number 6 is to utilize a short-term rental. How this works is that you would sell first, you would get to close without having to organize possession dates, and then you get your cash in hand for your next purchase. In the meantime, you line up a rental. Maybe it's just for 3 months or 6 months. Maybe you want to take a whole year to regroup. Maybe you want to go rent something down by the beach, or you want to rent something downtown, or in an apartment with a bunch of amenities. You just want to do something different for a little while to give you some time. This can be a really fun option for you if you do have somewhere in mind that you would like to rent, or if you just want the peace of mind that you have your cash in hand, and when you're ready to buy, you could move quickly because you're just moving out of a rental. So the downsides are that you would have to move twice. Unless you're selling your home furnished, which isn't super common around here, you would have to store your belongings. So maybe you get a pod or a storage unit. You would also have some kind of time pressure. Let's say you only got a rental for 3 months. Then you would maybe give yourself only 90 days to find a new home, which is totally possible, but depending what you're looking for and in a market with low inventory, might not be enough time. Of course, you could always extend the rental or get a different one, so this isn't a huge problem. Of course, it's totally possible that it could all work out perfectly and your allocated amount of time in the rental lines up exactly with the new home that you're buying. We just never know what the market has in store. A slight twist to this scenario is that you could maybe move in with family. Maybe you have family in town that have a big house and they don't use it all, or maybe they're only here half the year, or maybe there's just some other kind of scenario that would work out with friends or family where you could move in with them for a short period of time, a number of days, weeks, or months, and that could really help you out in this interim. Strategy number 7 is to ask for a rent back. If you want to sell first to get the cash you need without having to go the short-term rental route, then this could be the strategy for you. This is where you close on your house and then you stay in it as a renter for an agreed amount of time. Usually it's 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, and you're paying fair market value rent to the new owner. So of course the pro here is that you're getting your cash, you're closing, and you're not having to move twice, and you're not having to get a bridge loan or some other type of financing, or a double mortgage, or moving into a rental. This scenario can also work well if you are going the new construction route that we talked about in strategy number 1. If you know that you're going to be closing on your new construction home on an exact date 2 months from now, and the people who are putting an offer on your current home want to close in 30 days, then you could do a rent back for 30 days and it's a win for everybody. If you aren't doing new construction, or if you don't have an alternative plan lined up like a short-term rental, or maybe you're moving out of state, if you just want to utilize this strategy but you don't know where you're going, it's a little bit risky because you only have this set amount of time that you are staying in your home before it expires, and then you'd have to move out by that deadline. So if you are looking to buy a home resale and find a home in this window of time that is equivalent to the rent back, then that can be a little bit risky to have that quick of a turnaround without a plan. Another downside, which is a downside to a couple of these strategies that keep you in your home when you're not moving first, is that you are going to be living in the home when your house is on the market. So you do have to deal with keeping it clean and accepting showings and leaving the house during showings and getting the dogs out of the house, and all that comes with having your house on the market. And for some people, this isn't too challenging, but for other people, if you have 5 kids and 3 dogs, then it can just be quite a hassle to get everyone out of the house for a bunch of showings. So some people just prefer more of a convenient path. Some people don't mind the showings. Again, this is something that you need to customize for your situation and preferences. Of course, people do showings all the time while still living in the home, and there are ways to work with that. For example, having a 24-hour request timeline, or doing an open house, or just having certain windows of time that you allow showings and some that you just don't. That's okay too. Know that the more strict you are with your showing rules and timelines, the less showings you're going to have. So it's something to keep in mind, but there's always a solution for everything. Now, as far as the rent back goes, some buyers just simply won't want to do it. They want to move in sooner than later, and they just don't want to have to deal with having the tenants for this short period of time. Some buyers see this as a big risk because God forbid something terrible happened, like there's a hurricane and flooding or a fire, now they just bought this house that they're excited to move into, and then before they even got to move in, something bad happened that they're now having to deal with. So this is really worst case scenario, but these are some of the things that a potential buyer would be thinking about. Even if it's not that dramatic and it's just that something breaks in the house or just something more minor, it's still something that they're going to have to manage and deal with. And some buyers just really don't feel comfortable with this. They just want to move right into the home and not have the current owner stay there for any length of time. And last but not least, lenders also typically have rules around this. Usually you can't do a rent back for longer than 60 days. The lender has different types of loan products for different types of buying situations. So primary residence is different than an investment property, for example. So they start to get a little bit suspicious if people are staying in the home for longer than 60 days because they start to think that maybe the person buying the house actually did intend to buy this as an investment property, which is a big no-no. You can't get a primary loan if you are planning to utilize it as an investment property. So they have to have some kind of standards for where to draw the line. You definitely need to check in with the lender around the rules around this. And also from my perspective as the agent, anything that's longer than a 7-day rent back is something that I have to defer to the attorney, and they draft up something that has some kind of lease back agreement that is longer than the 7-day window. So just know that that's something that would have to be added to the terms of the contract as well. All that said, rent backs are fairly common. There's just a lot to consider, just like any of these strategies, and you just need to move forward deciding what is the most appealing to you and go for it. Strategy number 8 is to don't sell at all. Say what? Yep, don't sell at all. Simply rent out your current home and have it become an investment property. Yes, I am a realtor telling you not to sell, which may be shocking, but I want to be honest with you and have you make the smartest financial decisions that you can, both for your present and your future. Depending on how long you've owned your home, you likely have a lot of equity in it. In Charleston, homes have gone up over 30% in just the last few years. That is a lot of money that you are sitting on. While you could cash out, and you may need to, depending on your financial situation and what kind of home you're wanting to buy next, you could also look at the rental prices in your neighborhood and see what you could get for your home. Likely the rent is not only going to pay your mortgage, but it's going to pay additional expenses like the upkeep, the ongoing repairs and maintenance, and the taxes and insurance. You may break even, or you may even cash flow. Of course, the longer you've owned the home, the more equity you have, and the more likely you are that the house is going to cash flow. There are also tax benefits to owning investment properties, and this could be an additional stream of income for you for many years to come. Plus, rents often go up every year or two, which equals more money in your pocket. If you wait to sell the house 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now, that's even more appreciation and cash in your pocket. There are definitely a lot of perks to this strategy. You also have the benefit of keeping whatever mortgage you're currently locked in for your property. If you have a 3% interest rate, for example, you don't have to give this up. You can keep the same mortgage when you move out. If you were to go buy a new investment property right now as an alternative, you would not have this luxury. Investment property interest rates are actually more than the going interest rates for primary residences. So it's going to be well over 7% as an interest rate if you were to just go buy an investment property right now. So this is kind of a workaround on how to get an investment property, but at a lower interest rate. Those are all the pros. Now, what are the cons? You would, of course, have to either manage this rental property yourself or hire a property manager to do it for you. While the house is an asset, it's still something that requires ongoing maintenance and repair. So if the HVAC breaks, or if there's a leak, or if something small breaks, it's your responsibility to fix it when there's tenants living inside. If you don't want to manage all of this, you could definitely look at a property manager. Again, depending on how long it's been since you bought the home, the rental rate may be 3 times the amount of what your mortgage is, and you would be able to have that extra cushion to afford a property manager, and it could really be a win-win. I know a couple of great property managers. If you want to email me, I'd be happy to connect you. Also, if you want rental comps to know what you could expect for rent in your current home, again, please email me. I'd be happy to help. The last but very important thing to mention about this strategy is that the lender usually needs a signed lease from the new tenant before they can approve you for another mortgage. So this really depends on your finances. Maybe you can get approved without this, but for a lot of people, because they'll be getting a second mortgage out on whatever the new home is that they're buying, the lender wants to see that your current mortgage is paid for. So they're going to want a signed lease by your tenant before they can approve the financing for your new home. This isn't a huge deal or something that's typically super hard to do, but it is a very important detail and something you would need to ensure that you have before getting the financing approved for your new home. Strategy number 9 is to have 2 mortgages. Hear me out on this for a second. If you can qualify for the new property without having to sell your current home, then you could put an offer on the new house without a home sale contingency and close on that new home before needing to close on your current home. Yes, you would have 2 mortgages at the same time, but did you know that you actually skip a month of mortgage payments when you buy? So for example, if you closed on a new house in May, you wouldn't have a mortgage payment until July. This gives you a little bit of extra time to sell your other house without having to pay both payments. If you got your current house listed as soon as possible after going under contract on the new house, you hopefully wouldn't have too long of a period of time where you would have to pay 2 mortgages. There's a few situations where this could work out well. One of them is if, for example, you're getting married. Maybe one of you in the couple already owns a home, but you don't want to keep that home because it doesn't represent what you want moving forward in your married life. So you want to sell that one and buy a new one together. This happens all the time. Well, the person who doesn't currently own a home, if they're able to qualify for the home that you want on their own, then that person can qualify for the mortgage while you're still sharing this other mortgage payment. Now, this is assuming that you live together and are sharing that mortgage payment. That other person, of course, needs to be able to qualify on their own, which may or may not be possible. Maybe you just want to qualify for 2 mortgages because you have a strong financial position. Maybe you've had a huge increase in your salary, or you got a big inheritance, or who knows. There's a lot of reasons why you may be very well eligible to afford 2 payments at the same time. You could do this, and that would allow you to move into the new home before you sell the old one. Here's a tip with this strategy. Once your current home sells, you can take part of your payout. Let's say you have a ton of equity and you're getting maybe $300,000 in cash at the time of closing. You can take however much money you want from your profits. Let's just say you want to use half, $150,000, and put it towards this new home that you've already closed on. How this works is you would make this one big lump sum payment on your new mortgage. This pays down your mortgage, and then the lender can actually re-amortize the loan. This is where they basically redo the loan numbers and payments for the 30-year term based on this new mortgage payment. So let's just say your new home that you bought was $700,000, or the amount that you financed was $700,000. Well, now you just put $150,000 towards it. So now the new amount is $550,000. So they can actually give you this fresh loan re-amortized for the 30-year loan period, and then your monthly payment is going to drastically reduce at this time. So whatever mortgage you first got on the new home that you purchased wouldn't be your mortgage payment for long. It would be temporarily higher than what you would expect for the majority of your loan. Of course, thing to note here is that the lender might have rules around this. I don't know if it's possible in every situation, but I do know that it's possible in some. So definitely ask and see if this is an option, because this could be a great way to bridge the gap for yourself and then ultimately have your new home payment be more comfortable. So the pro of doing this method is that, of course, it's convenient, less stressful. You only have to move once. You could move out of your first home and get it all cleaned and staged and ready for showings without having to live there. And unlike a bridge loan, you wouldn't have the processing fee or additional closing costs. It's probably a little bit cheaper to do it this way. Now, the con is, of course, that you have to qualify to do this. Not everyone's going to be in the financial position to do so. You're going to have great credit, low debt to income, and some cash reserves or high income. If the house that you are selling takes longer to sell than expected, this is also something you'd have to be prepared for. So maybe you're only prepared to have overlapping mortgages for 2 months, but if the house takes longer to sell and you end up with 4 months of overlap, then that's a problem. So that's why I said you want some cash reserves to ensure that you're not going to be caught in this bad position. You would also need to have cash for your closing costs and your down payment up front versus the bridge loan where you're using the equity from your current home to put towards the new house. So you would need to make sure that you have plenty of cash in the bank for this purpose. Strategy number 10 is to buy an RV, a houseboat, a sailboat, or travel the world. Yes, this may sound a little bit out of the box at first, but it's actually more common than you think. It's not just for empty nesters or retirees either. There's a lot more families these days doing this where they bring the whole family along in an RV and they spend a couple of years really taking their time touring the country. They homeschool the kids, and the kids actually learn so much by getting to see all the different sites and parks around the country. I actually had my brother's friend come to town a year or two ago who was doing this exact thing. They lived in Hawaii, but they got an RV and they were taking their time going around the East Coast, and I just thought it was super cool. Some people may love the boat or RV life, but some people actually just want to travel the world and stay in different hotels or short-term rentals for weeks or months at a time. Maybe you just have a wanderlust and you want to travel around the world for fun, or maybe you're actually looking for a new place to live. You may want to move somewhere else in the United States and you haven't been to these places before. So you decide that you want to spend 1 month in 12 different cities, and that is going to take you a year. This really started to happen more during COVID when people were working from home and they were able to just pick up and go and still work, but work from a different location. If you've always dreamed about traveling the world or the country, then this is the perfect scenario for you where you can cash out on the equity that you made on your home, and then you can go for it and just get to go travel and enjoy life. Of course, this is obviously not going to be a fit for everybody. Not everybody wants this. It's a super unique situation and it's just not going to be feasible for everybody. So it's just a very big personal choice of if this is something that you would like to explore. Strategy number 11 is to utilize a third-party cash company. In this strategy, you partner with a third-party company that puts a cash offer on the new house you want to buy, and it allows you to truly buy now and sell later. Certain companies like Ribbon, Homeward, and Knock are changing how people buy and sell by allowing finance buyers to make all cash offers. These companies operate similarly to lenders where they buy the house up front and then you buy the house from them once your current house sells and closes later. The pro to this is that of course it's more competitive to have a cash offer versus financing, and especially versus the home sale contingency. You don't want to miss out on a home because you don't have cash and you're finding that there's a lot of cash buyers in your market. This could be a great solution. It's also super convenient and you don't have to deal with a bridge loan or getting two mortgages. Oftentimes the offer has other good terms, like maybe it's a faster close than traditional because it's cash after all. The cons to this strategy is that they do charge a fee for this. Maybe it's 1%, maybe it's 3%. Don't quote me. These companies are going to have different ways they work this and they could change at any time. Some people might argue that this is actually a minimal fee to pay for the convenience and also for the opportunity to have a cash offer and possibly win out in a multiple offer situation, which is really priceless. Some of these companies even let you roll this fee into your mortgage versus paying a lump sum up front. So this could really work out for you. There are a lot of terms with these companies, so you really need to make sure that you're 100% understanding exactly what goes into it and all of the details. You don't want to get caught off guard or not understand how this whole process works and what you're really getting yourself into. I'm honestly not super familiar with any of these companies, so do your own research, but if you are interested in this and you want to work with me as your agent, I of course will dive down the rabbit hole with you. We'll figure it all out and then we can go from there. The 12th and final strategy for today is to move into an assisted living facility. Okay, of course, this is obviously only for people who are older and ready to move into a new chapter of life where they're tired of taking care of the home. Maybe they're a widow or they're just at that point where they're ready to downsize, not have to deal with owning a home and all the maintenance that comes with it, and have this new community in a assisted care facility and really just enjoy this season of life. My grandmother moved into an assisted living facility after my grandfather died many years ago now, and while she was very resistant to it at first, she ended up loving it. I've never seen her happier just to get to play games and make friends, and she just was so social and she really, really loves it. Now, of course, these facilities cost money, and you really need to go visit to learn more about this, what the monthly costs are, how it all works, but it is an option that is going to work well for certain people. That wraps up our 12 strategies on how to buy before you sell. If you are a homeowner and are curious how much equity you have in your home, I have a link in the description below that you can go to, and you will get a report that tells you where you currently stand. I'm curious which of these strategies you think you want to utilize. Leave a comment below and share what you think would be the best fit for you, or if there's something I missed, leave that too. I'd love to hear how you are going to buy first and sell later. Again, my contact details are in the description below. If you are thinking about selling, buying, or either or, I'd absolutely be honored to help you. I look forward to meeting you one day, and until then, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.